Let me pose a question. How many people in this room are atheists or agnostics? Okay. How many of you at one time were religious people?
Well, how old counts?
Any time in your life, I guess. Okay. Not as many as I thought. All right. Okay. Well, it's almost as if the atheist community as a whole needs like an image consultant. Okay.
You're calling us Democrats.
That's a new reality show, Atheist Makeover.
Does this atheist dress make you look fat?
Civilization and society rests on morals. Morals rest on religion. Religion rests on the Bible and faith in God.
So I'm going to introduce the panel real quick. Moderating is the inimitable Josh 3. Representing the accommodationist side, Mark Orell. Sean McDonough. Representing the unapologetics are Dimitri Brandt and Miguel Moore. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Josh Hunt.
I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank Mark and Barney for putting these on. Let's give them a round of applause. And our panelists. So how this is going to work is we're going to start with opening statements on both sides, the prepared remarks that they're going to have, and we're going to go back and forth on that. And then I have some questions I'm going to put to them, and then they can discuss those questions, give their answers to that, and they'll go back and forth on that. And then any closing remarks they want to make, they'll make, and then we'll open it to questions and conversations from all of you. So we'll start kind of randomly, and I'll say that let's start with Mark Orell. Any opening statement you have, take it away.
Okay. To accommodate, to reconcile, adjust, settle as to accommodate differences in disputes, to fit for use, to repair, mend as to accommodate a broken couch. That's the one I am. As a carpenter, I accommodate broken couches very often. I am also a true atheist. By that I mean I do not care if there is a heaven or hell. I do not care which one I'll end up in. I do not care what will happen to my body after I die. And I don't care about religion except whereas it allows for a good conversation like tonight. As an accommodationist, I'm in the company of Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X. They work for inclusion, not exclusion. Who are in the unapologetics camp? The confrontational camp. Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, Louis Farrakhan. An accommodationist is more of a diplomat, and that's the side I'm taking. Thank you.
And we'll turn it over to Miguel.
Being compared to Louis Farrakhan. That's a false analogy, just want to say that, because our arguments are intellectually different. We care about what is true. They care about getting converts. Our only concern, our only premise is that which is true. People's feelings and whatever else may follow is secondary to the ultimate pursuit of what can be known to be true. So, I feel it is necessary to denounce the poverty of accommodationism as intellectually indefensible nonsense. Why? It's because its position uses the specter of political expediency as its founding premise in lieu of what is actually true. They ask us as atheists and skeptics to self-censor out of some sort of modicum of respect. Respect for what? Disease-infested ideas that have no place in the public square and are an offense to reason and common sense. Come on, we're asked to respect people who believe that a grown carpenter walked on water, that a Hebrew deity wandered into the desert and impregnated an illiterate 14-year-old woman, and we're asked to respect this. This is ludicrous. And I understand we're not here. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't want people to make people feel bad. But I honestly care, and we as atheists should care about what is true because we are the vanguards of the Enlightenment. And the Enlightenment is concerned about finding out what is true and reconciling that with the understanding of reality as we know it. And that is why I have no problem with accommodationism.
Thank you.
We, as atheists, as agnostics, as freethinkers, as skeptics, we have to make a decision. Each of us does. And that decision has to be, are we going to try to affect change in the world? Whatever subject we want to discuss, whether it be healthcare reform, whether it be prison reform, whether it be gun control, any social, any political ideal that you want to work towards, if that's what you want to do, if you want to affect change, you need to not be on my opponent's side. Because if you're on my opponent's side, if your goal is to sit in a room and talk about how smart you are, and about how religion is dumb, and about how religion is fanciful, and about how things that happened in the Bible aren't true, if that's your goal, great. If that makes you feel good, great. Because something makes you feel good is reason enough to do anything. I suggest hookers and heroin, but it's certainly reason to do anything. But if your goal is change, if your goal is any kind of political change, what you have to realize is that you have to come to some kind of understanding. If your goal is the former, nothing I say is going to matter. If your goal is the latter, you have to realize by polls, we are at best 14% of the population. We don't have a choice. They're 90, or 86, we're 14. And that's in America. In the rest of the world, it just gets worse. Especially when you drop below $2,000 a year annual income, it just gets worse. So if you want to change things, you have to come to some kind of reasonable accommodation. Hey, I said it. Thank you. And that reasonable accommodation for me is, rationally and logically, I can't prove there's not a God. Can't do it. It's a negative. I can't prove it. If you choose to believe in God, and as long as you're not running the country on that belief, I don't care. As long as you're not trying to teach creationism in school, because that's something I can prove. That's something I can test. That's something I can use science as a verb to understand. Belief in a supernatural, omnipotent, omniscient deity cannot be proven and cannot be tested by definition. So therefore, I don't even want to have that argument. I want to reach out to believers and non-believers and actually change things. But like I said, if you're in the former and you just want to sit in a room and talk about how smart you are, then have fun. I mean, it's reason enough to do anything. I guess that's all I have to say. I apologize for my rambling.
It's okay. And last but certainly not least, Dimitri, please.
Thanks. All right, well, my biggest problem with religion is that no matter how moderately religious a society is, it inevitably creates a slippery slope towards extremism for those few adherents who take it a little too literally, and there will always be those few. The reason for this is that religious moderates are basically the same as religious extremists, except that the moderates have thankfully allowed themselves to be tempered by secular social norms. By default, religious moderates are tolerant of extremists because, after all, the extremists actually believe what they say they believe, unlike the moderates who water down their religion to make it more palatable in the modern world. And it seems to me that, from an atheist perspective, being an accommodationist would only help perpetuate that same kind of slippery slope that's already made abundant by religious moderates. To put it plainly, we simply cannot afford to accommodate irrational beliefs anymore. It would be great to accommodate them in theory if only people's irrational beliefs didn't influence their actions, and if only people with irrational beliefs didn't get elected to public offices, and didn't allow their irrational beliefs to influence their policies. If we lived in that kind of world, then by all means, accommodation would be very reasonable. But in the real world, we live in a country where half of the population refuses to accept basic facts about biology. And half the population doesn't know how long it takes for the Earth to make an orbit around the sun. And we live in a world where we have an explosive growth of a religion that has a doctrine of military conquest literally built into it, and a growing minority of that religion that's plotting our destruction as we speak. Religion is the disease. Extremism is just a symptom. Our battle is nearly vertically uphill, and the last thing we need is to be pretending that there's any good to be found in letting people cling on to their irrational beliefs just a bit longer. We should be working towards creating a society where the moment someone considers taking religion seriously or literally, it should be readily apparent to that person how embarrassing, counterproductive, and just unwise that would be. So in that kind of society, no one would have a reason anymore to turn to religion for any purpose. And therefore, no one would have a reason to go down the slippery slope towards extremism. It should become just as embarrassing to believe in the God of Abraham as it is to believe in Zeus, or in Poseidon, or in Xenu, because they're all on the same footing of pre-scientific wishful thinking. Theism in general belongs in the Bronze Age, because it's based on Bronze Age thinking, and because the Bronze Age is already the resting place for all other gods ever invented by men. There's just one more to go. That's my argument. Thank you.
Thank you.